Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Mr. Mikhail's Manor of Mischief, Magic, and Mystery. I am your host, Andrew Mikhail, and thank you for checking out another episode of the 6M Podcast. It is January 12th, 2020, and we're on episode, technically episode 7, but we're on episode 6 so far of the podcast, and that's awesome. I didn't even think it would go past 2. But we're still here, we're still grinding it out, and hopefully you guys are still enjoying the vastness of this podcast's subject matter. Every week is something different, so I like to switch it up and give you guys something new that kind of represents, I guess, the craziness in my brain. So, again, the last episode I think was a little bit more lax. Today I've just got a lot of stuff to cover. Well, not like, a formal podcast, but got a lot to talk about today. A lot going on in my life, in the world. Should be a fun one. I'm excited about this episode. I got an awesome featured artist as well coming up later in the podcast. But as always, we got to go through some announcements in regards to the podcast. As always, guys, please rate and subscribe to the podcast. So rate the podcast on iTunes, wherever. Subscribe to it, Spotify, Google Podcasts, whatever you listen to podcasts on. Make sure you subscribe to the show. And as always, feel free to spread the word and listen. Have a good time. I'm not making anything off of this podcast. It's mainly just to etch my ideas at the moment into stone, which is kind of a risky game considering my mind is all over the place and today's climate is so sensitive and touchy. So, hey, we do what we can. Other than that, for those of you that don't know, I am the singer and guitarist of a band called Serpents US. It's a symphonic black death metal, deathcore, symphonic metal, technical. No, I'm just kidding. It's a Dionysian band, but basically it sounds like symphonic black death metal. But I usually bust out some announcements in regards to that for those of you listening for the first time. First announcement is we still have the winter merch available for pre-order. So if you guys want some a killer hoodie and a killer long sleeve, I'm holding off on some of the other items just because sales have been slow thanks to the holidays. Fuck you, Christmas. You guys can pick those up at weareserpents.bandcamp.com. Another announcement is we just released our drummer John's Spotify Top 25 playlist. Go check that one out. It's pretty funny. Considering he doesn't listen to much new music, we kind of had fun with his top 25. So head to our Spotify at Serpents US to give that playlist a listen. And also, please follow Serpents US on Spotify. Follow us on Instagram at Serpents Metal. Make sure to give us a like on Facebook at facebook.com/weareserpents. Twitter, We Are Serpents. YouTube, We Are Serpents. weareserpents.bandcamp.com for CDs and merch. Always limited to whatever I have in stock. I don't redo orders, so it's there till it's there, and then I'm done with it. So make sure you pick something up if you actually want something, and don't buy secondhand from bootleggers and whatnot. That's actually happening. but I won't charge you $100 for a CD. So support the actual artist instead of the hustlers out there on their grind. And I'm not mad at you. I just would rather have some support than none. And if you're just overwhelmed, as always, I like to say, just head to weareserpents.com and you will find all the links and announcements and stuff there as well. So that goes there. That's all for the announcements as far as Serpents and podcast life go. Lately, though, I've been a little bit busy in the studio, in the dungeon. I'm currently down here recording the podcast, taking a break because my hamstrings are killing me. I've been working out like crazy, getting ready for Nam. But above all, I almost said first and foremost, but above all, we've been recording the Seasons in the Abyss cover for Antichrist magazine. For those of you who aren't familiar, Antichrist magazine is a website. It's a metal website. I think it's a zine, like an actual zine, but I honestly haven't had much time to dive too deep into their culture and whatnot. But it's a reputable black metal, death metal, whatever magazine or publication. And they usually do these compilation CDs, or I guess you could call them CDs or samplers, or maybe even just a Spotify release. I don't know. But I would get a lot of emails from these guys, with whatever they're doing. I think the last email I got from them is they were offering Serpents a chance to do like a death cover. And I immediately wanted to do The Philosopher because that's one of my favorite death songs. It was the first death song I got to check out as a youth. And granted, I'm sure a lot of you metalheads out there are probably going, that's the fucking mainstream track. It's the single that was on MTV back in the day when they actually played music. And you are right. I basically, as a child, would watch children's programming and then would switch to MTV, Beavis and Butthead. That's pretty much when they started to branch off, I think, that in the real world. But I would watch that, and then MTV and The Simpsons and whatever I could get my hands on. A lot of movies too, but I unfortunately, saw a lot of bands that I would never have known via MTV versus, a lot of you guys that subscribe to fan clubs or zines or whatever that thing was called, where you send $1 and get 20 CDs, whatever it is. But I didn't have that luxury. I did not have that freedom. Growing up, Americanized Middle Eastern kid, did not have a lot of financial freedom like some people had around me. So MTV was always the place to go. So that's where I found Death and Sepultura. No, yeah. But at the same time, there was a public access show in Chicago. It's called Rock Hard Videos, I think it was Rock Hard Videos. And it was, I think, before Sven Gulli. I think he was the show after. But there was this guy that was kind of like this Headbangers Ball host, Ricky Rackman, I think it was called. I forgot his name. But, it was kind of like a public access version of that. And his name was Mark Menching. And it was this really big, tall dude with kind of like a deep voice. And he had like 80s rocker hair. He's still around, I think. But basically, I don't know. It was just a fun show to watch. Again, I was a kid. And that's where I found like the real shit. So if it wasn't for rock hard videos, I probably wouldn't have gotten into the metal that I've gotten into. You know, it was always just whatever I could find in Circus magazine or Hit Parader or whatever. And whatever I would see on rock hard videos was like, oh, I gotta check that out. So I remember as a kid hearing Seasons in the Abyss and watching the video on rock hard videos, and that song was like, it was a game changer for me in the sense that it was something that I always wanted in a metal song. You know, like I would listen to metal, or I would again watch MTV and hear like Danzig or, you know, whatever, like Alice in Chains, stuff like that, and that's kind of different. But you know, it was always missing something. You know, I like speed, obviously. I like symphonic aspects to my music, obviously now. And I just liked, I don't know, I loved how that song had everything. And that was a game-changing moment for me. And same thing, like they played Sepultura videos. They played a bunch of Danzig's like Unfamiliar stuff. I don't know, it was a really cool program, and I really wish that he would have known, you know, how he's affected the scene, or fuck, I would be nobody, or I would have never picked up the guitar if it wasn't for rock hard videos and Rebel Radio in Chicago. You know, I've gotten to know, you know, Scott Davidson from Rebel Radio like through my, I guess, through my travels recently. But you know, I even I did an interview with them. I think it was a podcast, or might have been over the air. I don't even remember. But I did an interview with Scott, and I told him that back in the day, you know, I mailed him a cassette of my first band's whatever demo, and because that's when I wasn't allowed to watch TV. I basically would listen to the radio all the time as a kid, and you know, like if my parents wanted to watch TV or whatever, if they wanted to watch a movie that was kind of boring for me, I would go in my room and sit at the edge of my bed and just sit in front of my stereo, and next to the stereo was a mirror, and I would honestly just sit there and just draw or daydream about, you know, being able to play music or be a rock star and all this shit. So, you know, funny enough, like I told him on the interview, I was like, yeah, I sent you a demo and you never played it, but I was used to that at the time, because what I would do as a kid, like I had my first band in like junior high or whatever. I think we played our show 18 years ago. Our first show 18 years ago was the first time I played on a stage. But what I would do as a kid is I would go through the Chicago Reader, which was like, for those of you who are not familiar, it's basically like a publication or a newspaper that shows everybody in the area, you know, what shows are happening or where everybody's playing at this bar or whatever. Basically, it was like a bands in town or whatever for all the youngins listening. And what I would do back in the day, I think it was like 14 or 15, forgot what age I was, but I was working in a video store with my aunt. Basically, it was a family member's video store, and it was quite prominent in the area that it was in Chicago, sort of nearby the metro. And I would spend shifts, obviously, working with my aunt, but at the same time, what I would do is I would go through the Chicago Reader, circle any bars that looked like they had metal shows. I would circle, you know, phone numbers to contact, emails, whatever. And this was, again, like almost 18 years ago or whatever. And I would email and contact a lot of these clubs and bars and like legitimate venues, trying to get my garage band to play these shows. I remember I even hit up one of these places I was trying to open up for Fear Factory, And I remember they were like, "Oh, you have to pay three to $500 to do this," and I was just like, "What the fuck?" But I mean, that was a learning experience altogether. But to bring the story back around, Rebel Radio was one of those places that I submitted to, and I can fully understand why that never panned out until later on. But hey, look at me now. We've come full circle. We're friends, and a lot of that work was not in vain, you know? I mean, fucking somebody the other day actually told me, my friend Dave, he told me that in Max Cavalera's Roots, or My Bloody Roots, like Max Cavalera's like book, he mentions how his son Richie showed him Oceano, my old band. And that's fucking crazy to me because Max Cavalera, Dino Cazares, and Mick Thompson were like my everything growing up. I was always a bigger kid, and Dino and Max were kind of bigger guys, and they were kind of grungy looking, and I don't know, like their riffs I loved their riffs. I loved the tightness, the technicality of Dino's riffs. I loved the wildness of Max's riffs. And Mick Thompson, I just loved his vibe, his image. And like without those three, like I probably wouldn't have been a guitarist today. But yeah, so sorry I got sidetracked there. So Seasons in the Abyss, it was being as important as it was to me back then. When Antichrist magazine hit me up, or hit Serpents up for submissions, like, hey, everybody pick a, because it's like a email blast. There you go. Hey, everybody, pick a song from Slayer's catalog. First come, first serve, and get it done by a certain time, and whatever. So immediately, like even without thinking, I pick Season in the Abyss because I already know, like, I want to do a Slayer song. I fucked up and didn't do the Death song, so I was like, okay, Slayer. And I'm a known procrastinator, so go figure. Last month of a month before it's due, I start going into overdrive. I'm like, I got to do this cover shit because I'm all over the place right now. I got the podcast, I got the band stuff, I got real life shit going on, personal shit, physical shit. Like I got a lot of shit going on. So I've been kind of aggravated as of lately, just because the way the system is set up now to be a musician, you're a content creator / musician on the side, which fucking sucks. I fucking hate it. And I fucking will keep talking about it on this podcast. So sorry if you guys are annoyed with that by now. But I'm kind of aggravated at the moment on that whole struggle. But little tip for musicians trying to do something, or tip for musicians trying to make it: schedule and plan your week in advance. I have a planner right next to me at my left hand side right now. I have a more imminent dry erase board with plans on it right in front of my face, and to my right I have my progress chart for the new Serpents album staring at me every day. So, little tip for you guys. But yeah, back to the Seasons in the Abyss cover. So the cool thing about the thing I hate about doing this cover, but it's also the coolest part about the cover, is that, I got my hands on some stems from the recordings themselves, the original recordings, and very strange how such a monumental, massive song for them was recorded so freely and with blemishes and all. Like, That's the nicest thing I could say about it, because I like basically, there's a million bands that probably have covered this song, and everybody's kind of done their own thing or whatever. But I noticed that there's no real like accurate tabs or accurate drum midis or whatever, because that's what I like to do when I redo a song. Is I like to pay homage. I don't know how you would say it. Homage to the original song, but also add a little bit of my attitude or flavor to it. So I'm not a fan of like throwing a breakdown, because that's what you should do in every cover, or blast beating over the whole fucking thing and calling it a cover. I like to add little nuances that I wish I've heard in the actual song. I mean, that's how I make covers, and I don't do it often. But since that song's such a monumental track for me, I was like, this is what I think it needs. Plus, I would love to hear it like done with like modern recording technology. I want to hear it like today. And then you guys can, I guess, tear it apart or listen to it, and like it. A lot of people think the old recordings, have a certain charm to them that shouldn't be done. Hey, it's like we shouldn't have remade Jumanji, but we did. So I keep getting sidetracked. I'm sorry, guys. But yeah, like I was listening to the, bass tracks and the drum tracks, and they are all over the place, and none of the tabs I saw have these nuances in them. So me being me, again, trying to pay an homage to the original song, I dove into each drum part, each bass part, and even the blemishes in the actual song. There's parts of the song, and I could be wrong. I mean, you guys feel free to correct me. But there's parts of the song where, like, literally there's, like, fuck-ups in it. Like, in the bass parts. And the drums are all over the place. And I could tell there's a lot of improv, like, with the drum fills. And there's even some accidental, cymbal hits in the actual song. And you could hear it, like, he was doing a drum fill and then, like, accidentally hit the ride or whatever. And I tried to recreate that as best as possible. So it was really tedious to do this cover, and I'm really excited for it to be over with. But that's what I've been doing, like, honestly, for the past couple weeks now. I think we're almost at 2 weeks since the month became. So that's what I've been up to. Reliving childhood dreams, I guess. But hey, the worst part about it is I have to take a break in a couple days to go to California for NAM. Super excited about that. I cannot express to you guys what a dream come true for me it is to be able to go. Thanks to my endorsers at ESP Guitars. That too is another reason why I'm like, oh my God, like I can't even describe it to you. It's something I've always wanted to do ever since becoming a professional musician. And for some reason, I could never go, like, whether if it's touring or if it's like money or whatever. But this year, I am able to go to NAM and represent ESP and Serpents. And also, I'm just excited to get out of this shitty weather. Like, California is pretty much like Mediterranean weather. And me being of Middle Eastern descent, I feel like that should be home for me, Maybe I can get a nice summer house one day in California. Hopefully there was no earthquakes. No, fuck that up for me. But yeah, I'm super excited for NAMM. You know, I'd be remiss. It'd be remiss if I didn't, show some love for my endorsers at ESP Guitars, Seymour Duncan Pickups, Ernie Ball, Tune Track, In Tune Guitar Picks, and some other endorsements that are kind of willy nilly. But I don't want to step out of line and say that I'm endorsed by this company and that company. So I'm really excited to see what kind of goodies. Well, I don't know. Like, maybe you guys can answer this question. Are there like plugins? Are there like plug-in companies that go to NAMM or NAMM? Like, I know Neural DSP is releasing some sort of floor modeler that's going to be stronger than the Helix and all this stuff. But like, do they like? It's hard to explain because I know Fortin and Neural are doing like actual hardware now. But I want to know are there going to be software companies there too? I don't even think TuneTrack's going to be there, but feel free to let me know in the comments. What am I expecting? Other than getting sick. Sorry, I'm like burping up a storm. Everybody's talking about online like, oh, Namthrax, you're going to get sick. Everybody gets sick. And kind of scared about that, considering I have to do vocals for this Slayer cover as soon as I get back. So I'm a little nervous about that, but I think we will be fine. I'm loading up on the hand sanitizer. I'm going to take showers morning, night. I'm going to, clean my butt. And, yeah. Sorry. It's not black metal to say butt. Sorry. Ass. My asshole. How about that? Is that better? And don't pucker up because I said asshole or talk about my asshole. Everybody's got one. Just like that saying, opinions are like assholes. Everybody's got one. And they all stink. Just kidding. But I don't know. I'm super excited to see what everybody's coming out with. I'm really excited to see what kind of guitars ESP is rolling out for the new year. I'm all about the 7-string guitars. I hate baritone guitars, so I'm really excited to see if they have any more regular range 7 strings. Hopefully with Floyd Roses. I know they do a lot of business with Fishman now, so it'd be really cool to see what guitars they have and what kind of pickups Seymour Duncan is coming out with. I just put it in an order for a power stage like an idiot, and I just saw that they are releasing a new power stage model, like a cheaper one. So it kind of has me on the fence going, I bet you they're going to have a new higher end one at NAMM, and I'm pissed about it because I just bought the new one or the old one. But yeah, so the power stage, I'm excited to see what they're doing, if they have any new pickups. Ernie Ball I'll just be happy to see everybody there because I never met any of those guys. But yeah, a couple of my other endorsers are not going to be there, unfortunately, but they keep me in the loop at least on everything that's going on with them, and a lot of their stuff is going to be on the new Serpents record as well as it has been on the last Serpents records. So I don't know. I'm excited. I want to get tattooed in California. That'd be nice. I'm like desperately searching for friends that tattoo in California because I haven't been out there in a long time. I'm desperately searching for restaurant recommendations in Anaheim and LA. I don't think I've ever spent a lot of time in Anaheim, but I've been to LA a bunch. Hopefully I can meet up with some friends, maybe go out to a couple dinners, maybe do a couple interviews. Stay tuned on that because I know we're all working on that right now. So I don't know. Maybe reach out to your favorite podcasters in the LA area. cough, doc, coil, cough. And tell them, hey, you gotta let the manor in. We'll talk some shit. You want to talk some shit? Anyways, it's white right now outside, so it'd be nice to see some sunshine, some beaches, maybe smoke a little weed, eat a couple edibles. Since weed is pretty much out of stock in Illinois right now. But yeah, it'd be nice to just get the fuck out of this ice tundra that I'm living in right now. Even though it hasn't been that bad, I know a lot of people are pissed because it hasn't snowed much this winter, and I am fucking happy as fuck that it has not snowed because I personally hate the snow. Many of you might remember I got into a pretty gnarly accident in the Oceano days where I flipped the van thanks to black ice and negligence by parties that I do not wish to name. But I was basically driving a van with bald tires, and we were picking up the trailer that we had literally just bought, and I was bringing it back to pick everybody up and head off to tour with Life Ruiner at the time. And on my way to pick up everybody with the new trailer, we got hit with some pretty gnarly crosswinds and black ice, and I ended up flipping the bitch. And ever since then, I haven't been a fan of touring in the winter or doing anything in the winter. I know a lot of people are probably scratching their head going, why aren't you guys playing? Why aren't there any Serpent shows? Well, number one, we don't have a manager right now, aside from myself. Number two, we don't have a reliable booking agent right now. And number three, I don't want to die for this right now. So we're staying put for the winter, riding this shit out. But I can't complain like right now about Illinois weather. Hasn't been that bad. Some might say it's global warming. Some might say it's not. I don't know. What do you guys think? Do you think it's global warming? I don't think so. I think the Earth is I think the magnetic poles were reversed or something recently. Something happened statistically or scientifically. And from what I understand, the reversal or the movement of the Earth, basically like now the Earth is facing, or it's hard to explain. The Earth is like facing a different way, or it's tilted a certain way. So because of the magnetic poles being all fucked up, apparently like maybe the climates are moving to certain areas. So I think personally, this is my personal belief, that Chicago is going to get some of that nice weather. And then the shitty, horrible winter weather might be heading up to Michigan and the East Coast. And maybe we might get some of that nice, good weather. Let me get that fucking, let me get that Montana weather. Is Chicago going to turn into a desert? Who knows? But I don't know. I think that's the cause of things. And I'm sure humanity is doing its part in ruining everything. So I think it's a combination of both things. But I mean, we could see right now what humanity is doing to places like Australia. You know, I actually posted this week basically a way for my listeners to donate to Australia, because if you have not heard already, Australia is pretty much on fire thanks to people across the country setting these fires. And I think they actually arrested quite a few people in starting these fires that basically have killed, I don't even know what kind of percentage of the animal population or the wildlife population in Australia. and it's also forced a lot of people from their homes and whatnot. And it's hard to sit there and go, oh, global warming isn't real or anything like that. But then you look at what humans did to a beautiful country like Australia. I mean, humanity in general, I think, is global warming in itself. I mean, we just fucking rape the planet pretty much, and without remorse or consciousness. I don't know. I'm not trying to get political, but damn, people. Like, I fucking hope nobody listens to me that also has the capability to do something horrible to the planet. I really think my listeners, musically and whatever podcast, I really think that they are cognizant enough of just doing the right thing. How about that? Occultist or not occultist, that's doing something like that is not advantageous for the human population, let alone the earth that has been here long before we've been here. And unfortunately, we're fucking it up. But then at the same time, we're looking at Mars going, oh, let's go to Mars. Why? So we can fuck that up too? Like, I don't know, man. Like, it's weird. I don't know. If the internet is showing everybody anything, it's the fact that everybody's fucking all over the place. I mean, everybody's struggling with some sort of mental illness or whatever. And I don't know if it's environmental or if it's just bad diet. I don't know. But everybody's got their own quirks, and everyone has the same amount of volume to their yelling because they're all on the internet. And everybody's pretty much an equal on the internet. And yeah, it's not good. It's not good. I also hope that one day soon I could see Australia again, whether playing or just traveling. I had a lot of fun in that country. It's a beautiful country. One of my favorite places that I've talked about just with friends and family is Melbourne, Australia. Beautiful, beautiful city. And it's I can't say enough about the country. It's a beautiful country filled with beautiful people and fucking scary, scary, scary species of animals, insects, and all that stuff. But they don't deserve to die by our hand by any means. I don't know. I'm pretty broken up about it. And like I said before, you can donate to their relief at all the links I've posted on my socials. So if you have not seen that link, check out the picture of me holding a koala, hanging out with a kangaroo, and all that stuff from when we toured down there on the Soundwave Festival. So I don't have much to give, but if you guys are feeling generous, please reach out to whichever charity or relief group and give a little support to Australia. But I'm going to stop with the ranting about Australia and humans. Well, garbage humans. But speaking of garbage humans, a little guilty pleasure of mine, and you guys can judge me all you want, but how about that show, 90 Day Fiancé? Huh? Do any of you guys watch that garbage or that show? Honestly, some of you might be judging me right now. Mr. Black Metal, Mr. Evil is, he says butts and he watches 90 Day Fiancé. Fuck yeah, I do. I don't know. I like to watch it and observe people, because, I've been all over the world and I've observed people in all of these countries and all of these places. And I like to watch that show to not only see like these people in different countries or whatever, vice versa, but also like to see the cultural differences and how, for the most part, most of those relationships are like the Americans are usually just power drunk and think that like, oh, this person's culture is shit, or that won't fly in America, blah, 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 blah. And I like to watch those differences either conclude or spiral the relationship out of control. And my lady and I, we like to call it trash TV because both of us, we work very hard at what we do, and we work pretty much 6 to 7 days a week on what we do. And a lot of the times at night, like, we just want to unwind. So we watch 90 Day Fiancé. But also, on a related note with the show, a lot of you guys already know I like to observe people. I like to observe nature or just traits in people. And if you don't know, well, now you know. One of the things I noticed the most about this show is that a lot of these couples are fine in their own right, but it's only when their friends and family have words to say about these relationships is when the trouble arises. So if I were to actually be a producer for this show, it would be pretty simple. I mean, you would just take a normal, I guess, long distance relationship that wants to turn into a marriage, and just put them right in the center with their friends and family, and then you will see if the relationship will stand or crumble at others' hands. And that's something that I deal with on a personal basis. I mean, I'm sure a lot of you can attest to this. Like, I think that's another reason why I like this show, is the fact that I can see, from an outside perspective, oh, this best friend is the one that's trying to unravel his best friend's or her best friend's relationship out of jealousy or desperation, or sometimes even having a romantic interest towards the friend. And it's kind of crazy to see, like, watching someone manipulate their best friend, or family members trying to sabotage a relationship by just being passive aggressive, or just being outright assholes to the significant other to be. And I don't know, it's just a really interesting watch. I mean, I could be alone, and I probably am looking too deep into it. Do any of you guys listen or watch that shit? Comment on the podcast. Let me know who's your favorite couple, who's your favorite, or which season's your favorite season, and am I alone? I know I'm not alone, because I don't know if you guys know, but one of the biggest phenomenon, I don't know how you would say it, but one of the biggest trends right now is TikTok. And I mean, it's used by kids and also senior citizens and everything in between. But a lot of people use it to just cringe at it by, I don't know, there's a lot of trash on there. There's a lot of funny shit on there. Like, if you ever want to figure out like what's trending or what's funny in America today, or just news in general, or memes, I usually just head to TikTok instead of, cruising Reddit or cruising Imgur on my downtime. And it's pretty entertaining. I mean, it's like watching a car accident in slow motion. Sometimes you just see some of these people and you're like, wow. And these people are making families at rapid rates. And people like me are taking our time, and then we're going to be outnumbered, just like that movie Idiocracy. But on a lighter note, I'm on TikTok as well. So for those of you that like metal-based humor, or just, I don't know, me trying to keep up with trends, feel free to check mine out at Andrucifer, Andruciver. Check me out on TikTok. Maybe I could start doing some cringe-worthy spoofs on some already cringy videos. And who knows, maybe Christina P. from Your Mom's House might check me out. I mean, that's basically who turned me on to the cringiness side of TikTok, is their compilations or their characters that they find on there. And in my own ventures on the app, I've managed to find my own gold mine. But that's not what it's all about. It's about having a good time. And honestly, like, a lot of these kids, and I'll give them that, and I actually did like a video on TikTok talking about it, but a lot of these kids using this app are super creative and super smart. Like, they're doing shit on their phone that, like, you would need like a producer to do, like as a video person or whatever. Or just even some of the subject content, I was just like, or the subject matter, I'm like, wow, this is pretty elevated for, like teenagers. I don't know. If you're ever interested to see what the world is doing, and you don't have Snapchat and you don't want to watch 90 Day Fiancé, I'd highly recommend checking out what's happening on TikTok. But I think that's enough podcast today. I've ranted long enough about Slayer, Nam, and TikTok and 90 Day Fiancé. Just kind of just shooting from the hip, what's on my mind or what's happening in the world, chronicling as usual. But I don't know. I think it's time for some questions. What do you guys think? Let's get into it. I know you guys got shit to do, so I will blow through this as fast as I can here. And as always, feel free to submit your questions on my socials whenever the podcast is posted, or whenever I post like an Instagram story or a Facebook story asking you guys for your questions for the week. So please, when I ask for questions, let me know if you have any. I've been fielding questions for many, many years. And this is your chance to actually get a good explained answer to your burning questions. So for the first question today, it comes from an account. It looks like a band account. Walking Across Jupiter. It looks like they're from Russia. And the question only says, "Hi, you're probably interested in new instrumental progressive metal, ... That doesn't seem like a question, and I will not answer the question, but I will say I respect your grind. I respect what you're doing. I actually checked out your music, and it's actually pretty cool. I'm a big fan of progressive metal. I don't really like repetitive metal too much, so I always like progressive shit, and stuff is pretty cool, man. Keep it up." So the second question of the day, or the first real question of the day, comes from the Pied Piper of Crete himself, my spiritual guide, Al Slager. How are you doing, brother? He asks, one question for Crowley: if he was alive today and you had the chance to talk to him. So for those of you who don't know, he's talking about Aleister Crowley, or Crowley. I don't know. A lot of people have different ways to say it. He is quite a figure in the occult realm, and he was quite a figure in pop culture for many years back in the day. He passed away in 1947, and I would say if I saw him again, or if he was somehow reborn or reincarnated, I would ask him about his run-in with Lam, Lam. For those of you who don't know, back in 1918, I think. 1918. He basically drew a figure of an entity he invoked, I think in his apartment in New York City. And it seriously just looks like a gray alien. And this was about the time, this is way before the time people knew what gray aliens even looked like or were. So I would ask him personally if he can confirm or deny that that was a gray alien or a demon or just an outright hallucination from one of his many acclaimed trips whilst under some influences. And if you guys don't know what I'm talking about, I highly recommend looking into Aleister Crowley and Thelema and all the stuff that comes with it. Very, very cool writing. This is one of my favorite writers. Yeah, I don't know. I can seriously just have a whole podcast about Crowley, and it would be one of many in the world. So if you guys are interested in hearing about Aleister Crowley, obviously check him out, as Al and I are big fans. So hope that answers your question, man. The third question comes from the reigning champ, Dina, from Luxembourg. I actually played Luxembourg. I like that place. Or Luxembourg. I don't know how you say it, but she says, I would like to have your opinion about people who put others in categories, like people who say that metalheads only drink beer, only love noise, hail Satan, are violent, and other cliches. My boss's son discovers that I'm a metalhead while was listening to Rammstein while I was leaving the office. He says that I am an extremist and looks at me like I have a mental disorder. To honor him, I decided to put some brutal death metal as background music in my office. And sorry for my bad English, I give my best. To answer that question, that's kind of a long way. I gotta reread it so I can understand it totally. People who put others into categories in general, in my opinion, are obviously man-made, mainly to organize every little thing and to identify every little thing so that they understand it or put it in a box. I mean, it's been happening since the dawn of man. So I don't see it happening. I don't see it slowing down anytime soon, considering that these days people are subcategorizing the categories and then subcategorizing the subcategories and then getting basically everybody wants to feel like they're part of a group, and every little thing becomes a category and a hashtag, and then all of a sudden you have friends. And then they all band up and go against other categories, and just creates a lot of dissonance in the world, and furthers us from each other and other communities, especially now that the internet is a major thing in our lives. A lot of people are banding together with only people that they are categorized with. So, in my opinion, now this is just me, I have been kind of anti, I guess, categorization or establishment in general. I am a walking example of just some have said I'm an enigma of sorts, just because you really can't put your finger on what I'm about or what I'm doing. I mean, perfect example, look at my career and then listen to these podcasts, or look at what I post online. Like, I'm all over the place. I don't like being categorized. I don't like my work, my art being categorized. So usually when people do that, it's kind of offensive to me. People say, "Oh, you're like whatever. Like you're supposed to be a black metaler. You're supposed to dress this way. You're supposed to look like this. You're supposed to only talk in fucking riddles. You're only supposed to do this." And if you guys can't tell already, I don't subscribe to that. I am. That's all I can say. I am. That's it. And any category is only for your convenience. It's not for my convenience. So I personally don't subscribe to that. I don't think I wouldn't blame your coworkers or whatever for thinking like that. I used to work for the state of Illinois in the payroll department, and everybody would always kind of like sneer or giggle at me because, at the time I had like a red skunk stripe in my hair and I listened to death metal with my headphones, and they knew I played in a band, and they all kind of looked at me like I was like the evil fuck up punk rocker or whatever. But then at the same time, they had a lot of respect for me because I looked like that, but also at the age of 18, I was putting out great work amongst the office. And I even had some of those people tell me, my last day, don't ever change. Don't become like us and chase your dreams and whatnot. So, I could have easily fallen into that category or fallen into a stereotype or a cliche like that they created for themselves in their lives because they're afraid of walking outside of the boundaries that have been given to them. And that's all I do. That's all I do. Is you give me a boundary, and what's the saying? Larry David, I think he's called a habitual line stepper, and that's me. And I don't think it's a bad thing that they categorize you or whatever. They just notice you're unique, and it scares them, which it should, because you could use that as a platform to jump off of, whenever they're looking for certain ideas or certain out of the box proclamations, like most companies or establishments do. You could be the person that they lean on. And then you could also scare them a little bit. So if you don't want to talk about, Barbara's awesome Thursday night watching American Idol, you can kind of scare her and be like, I was at a big satanic rock concert, and then that would end the conversation right there. So you could always use it to your advantage. That's my that's my viewpoint in a nutshell. So hopefully that answers your question. As always, I hope you keep bringing the heat as far as questions goes. And hey, you can always switch it up by putting on some Serpents as background music, because hey, a lot of people like symphonic music. And then you could be like, look, this is a death metal band, extreme metal band, and it has beautiful orchestration behind it. A lot of people don't even know that exists. They just look at Slipknot and Rammstein and, school shooters and fucking mass murderers, and they go, oh, that's metal. It's like, no, like, put on some fucking Dimmu Borgir or whatever and show them like, wow, this can be beautiful. I mean, that's honestly one of the main driving forces in my creation process, is I like to make evil music, but also make it beautiful. And so it's listenable by, the proverbial kids, people my age, and then also older people, like older metalheads or older people listening for, what's happening in the music world today. I mean, I don't even think anybody has time to do that, but I mean, I still do that. I look back and I go, well, what's popping now? What's this? Perfect example I was listening to that new Code Orange song, and I made my lady listen to it like a bunch of times and watch the video with me, because I was just like, this is what I've been waiting for. I've been waiting for fucking people to, go back to that 90s grit, the 90s darkness. And they're like a major band, like a major label band. At least I think they are still. And they're doing like dark shit. And I don't know, maybe Barbara from The Office fucking stumbles onto this Code Orange video because some anti-metal church fucking group is like, listen to this and blah blah blah, and then they could be like, well, I kind of like this. Does that make me evil? But okay, I'm done ranting on this. Sorry. The last question comes from my buddy Ryan Keene from Cryptic Oath. He says, what would be your top 5 quintessential things you need when on tour? So just top 5 things that you can bring from home that I like to use. I like to bring a blanket, whether if it's a bus tour or a van tour. I like to bring a blanket just because, number one, it's my own, and I'm used to my own blanket, and I feel weird using like a used blanket or, a bus blanket. And if you're touring in a van, you definitely need a blanket because you're not going to spend the night every night at a hotel or at a friend's place. So a lot of the time you're going to be sleeping in the van, either driving overnight or whatnot. So it's always awesome to have your own blanket, and also a big one so you can just hide under and just like read on your phone or fuck around on your phone at night. Another thing I like to bring is workout stuff, whether if that's a bike or kettlebells or a yoga mat, so I can go into the venue and do whatever I need to do, or even in the trailer. I like to do that stuff in the trailer on top of a yoga mat, just so I'm not, doing push-ups and shit on the actual trailer floor, fucking up my hands and whatnot. I guess you can lump in pre-workouts in that too. Obviously, you can go to the store and pick up a pre-workout, but I usually use pre-workouts when on tour. Like if I get a runner and they can take me to the gym, I'll take a pre-workout there. And I almost always, right before I hit the stage, like 15 minutes, 30 minutes before I hit the stage, I take a pre-workout supplement just to kind of get me on that last boost before I hit the stage. But as far as workout stuff, it's really up to whoever's working out. But I like to bring that stuff, the blanket. It's definitely have a stage outfit versus your normal clothes, because those shoes, your socks, whatever, if you wear what you wear on stage in the van or in the bus, chances are everybody's gonna fucking be angry at you, or you're just gonna be disgusting smelling. No one's gonna be around you. So I highly recommend bringing like a tote, or like a, what's it called, like a Rubbermaid tub, and having everybody kind of throw their shoes in that tub and call it a day. And then, obviously clean your clothes when you can. And I would definitely say grooming, like grooming kits, whether clippers or whatever you usually use that you just can't buy outright in the store. Obviously, I have a beard, or now I have like this goatee. But for all these years, I've had beards, bald head. So a lot of the times I have to clean that up, or when I'm just kind of like on the move, can only use the clippers. Definitely use that. So that's what, 1, 2, 3, 4. I would say headphones as the 5th. Just because, well, I like to use over-the-ear noise-canceling headphones. preferably Sennheisers. That's what I like to use. You're going to need headphones, whether in the bus or in the van. Number one, to drown out the actual sound of the van and the bus. Number two, to drown out the sound of whoever's driving's music, or just like the constant humming of a bus. And also, if you just want to catch some sleep, put on some, like when everybody's gone or whatever, throw on some noise-canceling headphones and just call it a night. And everything else that I like to bring on tour, I mean, you can buy in the store, like vitamins, you can bring that, or you can bring your own, but you could buy it in a store. Hand sanitizer, for sure, for reasons that I don't even have to explain. Baby wipes, for sure. Chargers, car chargers or wall chargers, or like a travel charger. Definitely a laptop. Bring if you want to do some work, or give your phone a little break. But a lot of the stuff you could buy or have a runner grab for you, or put it on your rider. Shit like batteries, groceries. I know. I think in the Serpent's rider it has like fucking cereal bars and whatever. So it really depends on the band or whoever, but I would definitely say a blanket, workout stuff, headphones, spare stage gear, and whatever you need to trim your pubes, bud. That's what I would bring on tour. So hopefully that answers your question. Those are all the questions we have for today. Like I said, pretty chill podcast today. Nothing too crazy. I want to just have a little bit of fun today. But final announcements, guys. Here it is. Before we wrap up, I'd like to ask you all that are listening to continue listening to the podcast. Again, we try and cover a lot of different things, whether if it's day-to-day stuff, occult stuff, music stuff, stories, whatever. Feel free to keep listening. As I hope as time goes on, we get a little bit more interesting with the subject matter. Again, I really take these questions and kind of riff off them to talk about like the main, I guess, aspect of the podcast. So when I ask questions on socials, asking you guys if you have any questions, please feel free to submit. You can DM me, or you can just respond to the post. I will see that and add your questions to the podcast. Rate the podcast, please. Apparently that matters. I don't know. Maybe it matters for new listeners to see if there's a good rating or not. But rate the podcast and subscribe to wherever you listen to podcasts from. So Spotify, Google Podcasts, whatever, Apple Music, whatever. Please do that. And as I said before, follow Serpents on all things Serpents. I'm not going to hammer down on the links because you guys already have those. So that is about it for the podcast. And as you may already know, if you're a long-time listener, long time is subjective. We usually like to end each episode with a featured band or featured artist that I personally like to shine a light on. And this week is no different, being that this week's featured band is Blackguard from Montreal, Canada. And a lot of you might be wondering, or a lot of you that already listen to Blackguard, you're like, well, they broke up a long time ago. Why are you featuring them now? Well, little did you know, they actually came back and already released a killer fucking album on all digital platforms and digital only for now. The album is called Storm, and whether if you're a newcomer or if you've been a fan of Blackguard, if you like just fucking full-blown just metal, and well, if you like the Serpent sound, definitely check them out, because Blackguard has like symphonic elements to it. But if you just like metal, like triumphant fucking epic metal that's not like power metal, like cheesy galloping. Dun, 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 dun. Like if you just like fucking good music and also symphonic elements in it, I would highly recommend, after listening to this podcast, checking out their new album called Storm. And fun fact, like a lot of these featured artists or featured bands, like I have some sort of personal connection with, or, you know, either way, I'm just like, I have to talk about this band, you know? So fun fact, for those of you who don't know, Paul, the singer of Blackguard, was actually, before this current reincarnation of Serpents, like as a live band, a lot of you guys don't know because we never went public with it, but right before this lineup of Serpents, I was building another touring lineup for quite some time, and it consisted of Paul from Blackguard, which you can hear when I play this track, like why he would fit. And it was me and Jeremy Kling, who plays drums now in Venom Inc. So I have a bit of a history with Paul and Blackguard and his other band Ages, and I'm extremely happy that, number one, Jeremy went on to play drums for Venom Inc. That I was able to get a touring lineup gathered, well, a lineup gathered now, and that Paul was able to get back to doing Blackguard and Ages and just being a fucking killer dude. So it all worked out for everybody in the end. So I'm not sour. None of the guys are sour that it just didn't pan out, but a little bit of a fun fact for you guys. So kind of cool. And I'm just going to shut up now and introduce their single called Of Threads and Fate, which features Per Nilsson of Scar Symmetry and Nocturnal Rites. And I think, maybe, correct me if I'm wrong, he filled in for Meshuggah for a while. So it's needless to say that this song is going to rip, and the album called Storm fucking rips. So check that out. Check them out on Facebook at Blackguard Band. And also, if you have a band that wants to be featured, feel free to hit me up, DM me, do whatever you got to do, and we'll talk soon. All right, guys, see you next week. Check this out.